Dan is joining me early. Hot damn, Dan. You are awesome. You're awesome. Okay, I'm going to let him get his stuff straight first before I bring Dan on. Rare earth elements. Rare earths are elements. Fair enough. I know they call them, but they always call them minerals, right? Dan,
okay, I'm ready.
You are the man. Thank you for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for this. Yeah, one of my guests canceled on me. It's kind of my fault. I thought we were in the same time zone. We are not in the same time zone, even though we're in the same country. When I was in another country, we were in the same time zone. It's just weird. I was like, we're under the same sky. He was like, dude, I'm an hour ahead of you. I was like, okay, fair enough. But thank you for joining me. My guest, as you all probably know at this point, Dan Kovalik. Dan Kovalik is a American human rights, labor rights lawyer, political activist. He previously taught human rights at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. Human rights man. I had just gotten to this conversation with Dr. Wilma Leon about morality and what's right. Human rights. Speaking about human rights not being honored, I am sure that you've seen the strike on Nasser Hospital. Now, what's fascinating about this is for the longest time, we were told Israel doesn't attack hospitals. We don't do that. We don't do that. You guys are making that up. Well, this is not made up. Then this is the video of this. And I'll say trigger warning for people who are squeamish about this stuff. I know I play these videos a lot, but still, I give the trigger warning nonetheless. And just to be clear, what you're watching, Israel struck the hospital once. Yet paramedics trying to get people and save those people that were injured, killed, etc., and trying to move those people from the wreckage. All right.
الصحفي حسام المصري.
لا حصل الآن
نعم.
الآن خليك يا الله راح الدفاع المدني قتلوا الناس راح الدفاع المدني قتلوا الناس استهداف كبير الآن كما تشاهدون في هذه الصورة تدمير كبير.
And at this point, it's absolute chaos. Just absolute chaos. Oh, by the way, fortunately, Netanyahu came out. He apologized. Of course, they don't kill civilians. And so he put out a statement just saying, hey, just so you all know, this was a mistake. We don't target civilians. We don't target journalists. Israel deeply regrets the tragic mishap that occurred today at Nasser Hospital in Gaza. Israel values the work of journalists, medical staff, and all civilians. The medical authorities are conducting a thorough investigation. I bet you are. Our war is with Hamas terrorists. Our goals are defeating Hamas and bringing our hostages home. So Dan, he's apologetic. They don't kill civilians. They just kill dangerous babies and, dangerous journalists and dangerous medical staff. Give me your take on this first before I show something else with this, because there's another part to the story. But give me your take.
Well, I mean, I find it strange even that he apologized, given the fact that, again, he's destroyed every hospital in Gaza, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there was a report just released saying that it's estimated that of the casualties in Gaza, 83% are civilian. Okay, so everyone knows Israel is targeting civilians, shooting children in the head. A number of American doctors who went to Gaza have reported on that. Shooting people going to get aid, starving out the population. So I think, this happened to be caught on video. It looked particularly bad. And of course, a Reuters journalist was killed. So, God forbid someone from the West dies. So he's got to do damage control. But it's just no one can believe this guy anymore, right? I mean, you almost have to believe the opposite of what he says. He's such a pathological liar. There's a family that I've been in contact in Gaza and supporting for a while, and the my contact is the mom of the family. Her name's Rola, and she texted me yesterday. Her husband was working in that hospital when that attack happened, just barely escaped with his life. She said miraculously so. So it's a terrible situation. I mean, terrible doesn't even, capture it. I mean, it's an abomination what's happening. It couldn't be happening without support of the United States. Constant replenishment of munitions and arms. Without the intelligence help of Great Britain, also further military aid from Germany. But to me, outside of Yemen, frankly, the whole world's complicit because that the population's being allowed to just starve. I mean, where is the help? I mean, some country with a big navy could go in and bring in help. Israel, especially if it were from the West, but even not China or Russia. I doubt that Israel would try to stop a serious attempt at bringing aid. But it hasn't even been tried, except by civilians, and God bless them for trying with these flotillas. But those are easily intercepted by Israel and will continue to be. But so, yeah, no, we're witnessing something quite terrible. And again, Netanyahu is
Flagrant liar.
a frequent liar and a murderer, But the sad part is he isn't even the most radical of the leaders in Israel, is the truth of it.
So this is, what is it, Channel 14. Channel 14 brings out the truth of the matter. Yet all of these denials, we don't kill civilians. We don't do that, which is always mind-blowing to me. And to back up your point, I don't know if they do that as a denial or if they do that to mock because they know that everybody knows it's lying. It's like the kid standing there with his hand in a cookie jar and there's crumbs all over his face. And he's like, I didn't do it. It's like, dude, obviously you can see the crumbs. We can see the jelly. We know it's you and you know it's you. So why are you telling me that you didn't do it? It's a mocking gesture. I don't know if it's an earnest, take of denial, if that makes sense. This is the reality of it. So this was Channel 14. They're speaking in Hebrew, I'm assuming. But this is...
מדובר בתקרית שעושה הרבה רעש משעות הבוקר, אבל נכון לערב זה, מהפרטים שאספנו עד כה, עולה במפורש. לוחמינו פעלו כנדרש. אנחנו מפרסמים כעת לאחר שיחה עם הכוחות המעורבים בתקיפה המדוברת, הם טוענים בצורה חד משמעית. התקיפה אושרה ותואמה עם הפיקוד הבכיר, והם ידעו עליה טרם בוצע. כמו כן, בימים האחרונים, מזהים בסיירת גולני, באחת הקומות העליונות במפקדת הטרור נאסר, מותקנת מצלמה
Okay, this is not a sexy language. But what he's effectively arguing is, look, military staff was told to do this. Like, meaning they understood what they were doing. They did this attack. It wasn't a random accident. It wasn't a mistake. They hit that hospital, and they hit that hospital again with a double tap. And it was orders that came down that told them to do exactly what they just did. Netanyahu's like, yeah, this was a mistake, and it wasn't a mistake. That's my point. Even their military brass is saying this was not a mistake. We did as commanded to do. We did our jobs. That's amazing. It's like you can't even have the ball from yourself in this.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, they are being told that every man, woman, and child in Gaza is a military target.
Yes. It's a free. It would be called in Vietnam War terms a free fire zone. Because the Americans also viewed every Vietnamese as a legitimate target in these free fire zones. And all of Gaza is a free fire zone. Everyone is subject to being murdered. And you have various officials in Israel who talk about that every child, even in the womb, is a potential terrorist. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes this genocidal, because they
want to destroy this entire population. And that's what they're doing. And again, with the famine, I mean, they're now saying, the amount of diseases, including some rare diseases that are now haunting Gaza because of the famine and the lack of fresh water is just incredible. It's just unacceptable. And again, no one can believe their claims that they're not targeting civilians, because they are. And there's plenty of proof for it, because there's all these IDF soldiers on TikTok bragging about it. Some soldiers will even blow up a house, a Palestinian civilian home, for their wife's birthday or for their anniversary as a gift to show them. It's sick. It is sick. Israel's sick. It cannot be allowed to exist as it does now. It needs to be denazified, just as Germany was, or should have been after World War II. It actually never really was, but it should be. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard to even give words to these things. We all know what's happening. And again, to make the analogy to the Holocaust, I mean, at least then a lot of Germans and a lot of people in the world could claim some plausible deniability. They didn't know it was happening. And that cannot be claimed now by anyone. Because you either know or should know what's happening. And yet it continues to happen.
I think governments, you pointed out before that some governments should get involved. There should be something in people for them to care. I'm not of mind that people care. That's not true. I think people care. And I think the world looks at this with a certain amount of shame, even indignation at what's taking place. But doing something is different, especially from the standpoint of a government. In World War II, you had governments that were directly involved against a particular state, in which case they did care because they were directly involved with the state, like they were militarily, kinetically involved. In this case, you would have to do it on humanitarian reasons, kind of like Yemen, where you're saying, I'm going to get involved because this is the right thing to do, and the United Nations Charter allows me to get involved in order to stop an obvious genocide.
In fact, it requires it. The Genocide Convention requires states to get involved to stop it. I mean, it's not even an option. That's what's crazy about the whole thing. You had Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, say, well, why are you guys waiting? Why is the West waiting to recognize a Palestinian state till September? You just want to make sure there's no state left that you could recognize because the Palestinians will be dead, which is true. But I would ask Mr. Lavrov, if that's the case, then why isn't Russia doing something? The Soviet Union, I think, would have. I think Cuba under Fidel Castro might have, but we don't have that sort of socialist internationalism that we used to have, very sadly.
Well, I was going to say, why would it have taken a socialist government to do it?
Because they had an internationalist vision that others don't have. I mean, it shouldn't require that, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's a necessary prerequisite, but it happens historically to have been the case that, the socialist countries showed that type of solidarity in a way that the countries now do not. That's my view anyway.
Is it because they had an ideology?
Because they had an ideology. They had an ideology, and they had a internationalist vision. And Russia does not have that vision anymore, post-Soviet Union. China, honestly, rarely even showed it, even after the Communist Revolution of 1949. They've never really, aside from helping Korea right after the revolution, because the Koreans had helped them so much. I mean, they owed Korea a debt after the triumph of the Chinese Revolution, because the Koreans really helped them out against fighting against Japan during World War II. But aside from that, China never really showed a lot of solidarity with other countries, with the third world, in the way the Soviet Union did. The Soviet Union was special in that regard. Particularly, again, if you look at Africa, the untold story about how Cuba and the Soviet Union really liberated Southern Africa and helped rid South Africa of apartheid, But those are models, those are examples that we need to draw from, and we need that sort of solidarity today. Again, it's not inevitable that a country like Russia wouldn't do that now, but you're not seeing it, right? You're just not. And you're not seeing it from China, which is still, the last statistic I saw is that China is the biggest trading partner with Israel. I mean,
Really?
Oh yeah. In some ways, it's not even asking countries to do anything. It's asking them to refrain from doing things, right? It's asking Turkey to stop supplying oil to Israel that they need to prosecute the war. And they're supplying war that's coming from Azerbaijan. So it's asking Azerbaijan, which is a mostly Shia Muslim country, to stop supplying oil, and telling China to stop trading with Israel. If countries would just stop supporting Israel, obviously the U.S., if it stopped supplying them militarily, the genocide would end tomorrow. But that's probably too much to ask, given the nature of the United States government. But I mean, countries that you think that at least would refrain from doing things to help Israel, if they would do that and stop doing those things, it would make a huge difference. So that is the dirty little secret, In Russia as well. I mean, Russia continues to trade with Israel, continues to have diplomatic ties with Israel. Again, there's so much more the world could be doing to end this, or not be doing. And that's what's really disturbing to me.
I feel weird as an American making this case. I was having a conversation with KJ, and I asked KJ effectively, why isn't China doing more? And KJ was like, are you really asking me that as an American who's paying for it? And it's like, yeah, I get that. But all things being equal, if any country around the world, or if you saw a genocide taking place around the world where human beings were obviously being destroyed and being starved before our very eyes, what does it matter if it's America? I'm saying this weird. What does it matter if I'm an American saying that other countries should restrain my government? Like if I'm with my wife or ex-wife, she has too many drinks and she gets into a bar fight, you may need other people to restrain your wife, right? And I'm saying that your country could go rogue and your country could do things that are just way beyond the pale that you may need the rest of the world. If you were a German living in Germany and you didn't agree with what was taking place in regards to the Hitler government, you needed other countries to restrain your government. You as an individual wasn't necessarily enough to stop your government that has lost, let's say, this connection between the society and what the society wants. It's gone rogue. Yeah, you may need somebody to restrain, to stop, inhibit your country from committing a genocide. Like, it just feels weird as an American because, like, dude, your country's the one that's doing it. Your tax dollars is going into it.
Well, there's nothing weird. There's nothing weird about it. I mean, again, as an American, our main duty is to protest the U.S. government and its support for Israel. That is our duty.
Yes.
And that's where I'm going to put my energy. That's where we should put our energy. But if we're just going to be talking about reality and the truth is that other countries are complicit too. Again, I'm not going to go to the Chinese embassy and protest them. I mean, that's not my, again, I feel my duty is here in the U.S. to protest the U.S. government. But I mean, let's just be honest. We have to be honest about where we're at, and I think, my old commie friends, remind me all the time, like they're really like down on the multipolaristas who kind of fetishize the BRICS as if they're some sort of cure-all. But they're not. It's not a social. It's not the Warsaw Pact. Again, we're just talking philosophically. It's
Yes.
not the Warsaw Pact. It's not socialist. It's not engaged in socialist solidarity. India is part of the BRICS, which said they want to do to Kashmir what Israel's doing to Gaza.
Yes.
So let's just be honest with each other, right? I mean, again, I'm not going to go and protest the Indian embassy, but I'm also not going to pretend that they're good guys on this stuff. That's just silliness.
Yeah.
As leftist intellectuals, we have a right to talk about the truth, not to worship things that don't deserve to be worshipped. And not,
I
give
see.
faith in countries like Russia and China that aren't doing what they need to do to stop this genocide. That's all there is to that.